Hi everyone, welcome to Founders Marketing Compass. Each episode explores startup founders' challenges in managing their marketing team. We cover everything from setting the right KPI to analyze customer acquisition costs and align with long-term strategy. My name is Atticus LeBlanc. In my experience as a co-founder and as a marketer, I'm interviewing founders and investors to learn how to build healthy lasting relationship between startup founders and their marketing team. Before we dive into our questions with Atticus LeBlanc, I'm happy to hear a bit more about you and your journey as an entrepreneur.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Edgar. Pleasure to be here as always, and always good to see you again, my friend.
Okay,
So
sir.
for me, my journey started as an entrepreneur almost 20 years ago now, 2005, and have been in the real estate, housing, construction, and private lending space for most of my career. But really started at the ground level and was a solopreneur for much of that time, and then found a partner, and it was really just the two of us for most of my career, all non-technical. And then in late 2016, early 2017, I had an idea that could translate some of my housing experience into a marketplace model that I thought could scale and really address the affordable housing shortage across the country. Of course, in the US, that's a major problem that we're facing. I know it's a major problem internationally, and felt like I had some unique insights and experience into how that problem could be addressed by housing providers and would-be providers on a small scale, but done at scale across the country and potentially across the world. So have been running PadSplit now. We have been reasonably successful so far. We're still alive at least, and operating one room at a time. And it's been quite a journey for me, both from an educational perspective, just personal and professional. But it has truly been a labor of love, and yeah, happy to be here today and to be able to share anything that I might have learned with you and your listeners.
So, thank you so much. I can say that I'm seeing your journey on a personal level and remember that you were so excited to see your tennis unit. And now we're talking about the 10,000 and soon the 20,000. I think what you're doing is inspiring for every entrepreneur in the world.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's as you know, none of these journeys are easy. You almost never go as fast as you would like. But when you look in the rearview mirror, it's nice to be able to see that we've come quite a long way.
So let's dive into our first question. And in this podcast, we try to tackle this relationship between founders and their marketing team, especially founders that don't have this marketing experience in turning from the expertise of their venture, like you.
Sure.
So the first question is, you have your marketing team and you need to set a KPI. How do you define your marketing team? This is what we need to work on. I will measure you based on those KPIs.
Yeah. So, I mean, so for us, it's really about business performance. And so we are a marketplace at PadSplit that exists between renters who need housing and housing providers who have spaces they need to fill in order to generate a financial return. So our marketing KPIs are not significantly different than our overall business KPIs, which are those rooms filled? And how quickly are we filling those rooms with people? How many heads are we putting in beds? Is our occupancy at or near capacity? And are we generating leads and funneling those leads into individual rooms fast enough to be able to meet the goals of our host community, of the people who have individual homes or apartments on the platform? And so it's both on an ongoing basis. What is our occupancy, and then separately, what are our net move-ins? The difference between individuals that are moving in versus individuals that are moving out. And I'd say net move-ins is probably our single. If we could pick one KPI for the marketing team, that's probably it. And then separately, we don't rely on our marketing team too much to generate supply leads. That's more of almost a B2B sales driven process now and networking relationships. But that certainly could come into play more so as we continue to grow and scale. But right now it's very simply how are we filling rooms quickly for our host customers, because that's what they're expecting from us.
I love the simplicity. And taking you into the next step, when you have your very big vision, and I know you are because you're a visionary founder, and I love it. How do you balance between those short-term and immediacy and build your residence with this very long-term strategy? How do you communicate it and within your marketing team that they will be aligned and manage not only to understand, yes, I need to do this CPA and this CPA, but I'm building something bigger over here. I'm part of something here.
It's a great question. And at the end of the day, like, the journey for our customer does not end when they book a room, or even when they move into the room. It's important for our marketing team to think about not just how efficiently can they move a lead through the funnel, can they attract a lead, move that lead through the funnel into that individual room, but also who is that lead, and the overall customer segmentation piece, and to evaluate on the back end, did that lead stay for one day? Did they book a room and never move in? Did they book a room and stay for years? Those outcomes are extremely different. And so I think it's dependent upon the marketing team to determine, is there a way that we can identify when we first try to capture those leads at the very top of the funnel? Do we have any way to predict if they are going to actually book and move in, if they're going to stay for 1 day, 10 days, or if they're going to stay for the rest of their lives? And there's extreme value in understanding, from an overall CAC versus lifetime value perspective, if you can segment those individual users. And then separately, are there other questions, some on the operational side, but also on the marketing side, expectation management for those users, so that when they are feeling anxiety about potentially moving in literally to this new situation, can we quell some of those feelings and build trust and comfort? And that's still very much a marketing function. And of course, we see, not surprisingly, that there are much better outcomes for those individual users when they feel comfortable and trusting about the environment. And so to the long-term vision and building out a scalable marketplace, and for us, we want to create a world-class marketplace that provides the fastest, most effective solutions for the affordable housing shortage, specifically for low-income earners. And what that really means is, like, when you look at not just fastest but effective, are the rooms or the living spaces that we are matching these users to, do they work? Do they work for that customer, and will they work longer term? And will that user go and tell all of their friends and everyone in their network, this is an amazing option that you should go book to it today, right? And that you should really consider the next time that you have a variety of choices, or you have a situation where you need to move somewhere. Because if they actually do that, and that's truly a successful outcome, as you know, that creates this flywheel, which ultimately drives down CAC, is likely to increase lifetime value as well, and ultimately just brings you closer and closer to realizing that vision of scalable world-class marketplace that's both fast and effective for any of those customers.
I love this one, and then I realized, Ashton, I know that already, like, many founders listening to this podcast, and some of them are not coming from the marketing, and eventually they will need, as a CEO, to stand those KPI and track things exactly like you do it. How did you set a founder that don't have this marketing background and don't have this very highly A-class CMO in his team, to approach to his marketing team? How can he narrate this knowledge gap?
Yeah, I think it's probably a two-way street, right? In that a founder or CEO has to be able to effectively communicate what their objectives are, and how the performance of the marketing team will be measured, and what is the ultimate measure for the CEO of success, and how do the capabilities or performance of the marketing team funnel into that success. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, if they are engaged with a potential CMO or marketer, if it's the right person, then that person should be able to communicate effectively to the CEO. These are the levers that marketing can pull in order to achieve those business objectives. And then from there, I think it's a lot more about just does each person accomplish what they said they were going to accomplish? Do they show up on time? Do they communicate well? Is there a cultural fit? And so I think that's a huge part of it. But I've certainly gotten some trial by fire around performance marketing over the time that I've been here. And the relationship is ultimately built on one of trust. And do you trust in whoever your marketing partner happens to be, that A, they understand what the business objectives are, and B, you have confidence that they know how to go and achieve those business objectives, at least to whatever extent possible. Both in terms of the performance marketing and analytical side, and then separately in terms of brand marketing and promise, and understanding what are the built-in growth and marketing loops in the business that can be exploited or taken advantage of to really propel things forward.
We talk on brand marketing. Let's dive in a bit into this. So many founders think they can go and they read and can I see it all along, and it's definitely true that building a brand is eventually crucial for long-term success. It's really hard to succeed almost in any business. 95% of the businesses you can't really build this $1 billion company if you don't build a very strong brand. And on the other hand, much of these startups see only until the end of the runway of the current round. Let's be very honest. It's hard for them to see 4 or 5 years when they're spending their money. Because they're thinking, I have to achieve my goals, because 1 year from my round, I need to go and fundraise for my next round. And it's really hard to say, I'm going to spend right now on my brand for something that will make revenue 1 year, 2 years from now. I don't know if I will live. Now, what did you say? What is your recommendation to fellow founders to say, okay, now we need to start invest in building our brand that we know will give us the money 1 year, 2 years from now?
Yeah. I think the first thing to clarify is just, what is brand marketing and what does that mean? Because a lot of times we throw out that word and people take it to mean one specific type of marketing for typically a growth stage or larger company. And you're talking specifically about campaigns when a lot of people talk about brand marketing. But I think ultimately, as we look at what defines your brand, if you think about any of your favorite brands, it's what is the consistency of performance, and what do your customers know to expect about your product over and over and over. And it's just meeting those expectations on a consistent basis. And so aside from any campaigns at all, you can start building that as soon as you've sold your first product, right? Did you ultimately execute on whatever you promised to your customer? And what then is that customer going to say to their friends about you? Like, that's brand marketing, right? I mean, that's brand. And if you do that 100 times or 100,000 times or 1 million times, like, That's brand marketing. And you're certainly setting up your future marketing team for success if all of your customers are singing your praises because you have consistently executed on whatever you promised them from the beginning. And so in that way, it's never too early to start working on your brand. And something that we say just as guiding principles in the company, and that we expect not just from our staff, but from all of our stakeholders, both on the renter side and the host side, is care, show it, prove it, right? And if you just continue to show people that you care and prove it, meaning execute over and over and over and over again, it is a matter of time until that becomes its own campaign, and you have your customers who are promoting you on their own without any cost from you. So if you think about, like, if that's ultimately the goal of a brand campaign, that you have rabid customers who are singing your praises to the masses, there's one way to do that through a separate marketing campaign, but there's another very straightforward way, which is just you execute and you please those customers over and over and over again consistently. And so I think that's probably a key differentiator.
And we talked about this long-term strategy that you can and you envision, and how do you balance this creative freedom that the ad platforms work, let's make, whole creative, everyone's saying this is the best way to do performance, between this very long-term strategy thinking.
Yeah, and this ties in a little bit to the last question as well. Because when people think about brand marketing, I can tell you what I don't think will ever work is to sell something that you're not, right? If you start creating a brand campaign around a promise that you have not fulfilled, it's not going to resonate, right? You can fool people, you can fool a few people for a little bit of time, but you can't fool a lot of people all the time. And so if your brand promise and your is not real, and you start a brand campaign that is ultimately disingenuous, people are going to figure it out really quickly. And the same is true for, as you think about creative, like, if your message is not authentic, people aren't going to buy it. And for me, there's often this decision between, do you market what sells, or do you market yourself, right? And it's like, I come back to the Shakespeare quote over and over again, which is, to thine own self be true. And to a large degree, as a founder, I know what is true. I started this company when it was just me, and so I'm selling myself, and this is my baby, and I can't produce or market anything that is not truly authentic to the identity of the company, of me, of the product that we are selling and creating, and hopefully the opportunities that we are providing for our customers each and every day. And so I think the founder naturally has a role in creative, in that they have forged that identity, for better or worse, from the beginning. And there's always that element in any sort of creative campaign, and whoever the team member is who is generating content for the public has to understand the identity and the background of the company, and what ultimately the founder's opinion or origin story, or what has been their stamp thus far, and how does it either need to be communicated, modified, and then translated for better public consumption.
When you want to try to understand your doses of three, the ad platform they come and they report on numbers, which are really, really favorite app. But the reality that a loss of users that would have come even without this campaign. You count as a CEO and you need to understand what is my real customer acquisition cost. How do you look on this as a founder?
It's your ad spend plus, right? Plus whatever dollars in salary or contract that you're spending for the people to go deploy those strategies and campaigns through all the channels that you just mentioned. And then what's the time and opportunity cost for where could the dollars that you're spending on those people on those campaigns otherwise be going? And yeah, are there other campaigns that you should be running with those same dollars? Are there operational improvements that you could be making with those dollars? So, listen, I mean, the short answer is I think most of us often underestimate our CAC to some degree intentionally. It's if you actually added up the opportunity costs, and I don't think almost no one that I'm aware of adds opportunity costs into CAC. For one, because it's really hard to measure, and two, it's a relative unknown. But you should absolutely be as honest with yourself and your marketing team as you possibly can be, so that you understand if you have a viable, sustainable business. I mean, people often talk about 3-to-1 LTV to CAC businesses, and I suspect probably the reason why that works is because CAC is always so underestimated that it's more of a 1.5 to 1 when you actually factor in all of those ancillary costs that in most cases just aren't included, and you still end up with a business that works. But yeah, it's really easy to delude yourself simply for the purpose of vanity metrics or trying to raise money. But yeah, you've got to just be really honest with yourself and with your marketing team around, hey, let's make sure that we are including all of the people at a minimum that possibly go into this number, and not just our ad spend, and then all of our software tooling that goes into it as well, and potentially a portion of your time, or whoever the other people are that are actually spending consistent time on these campaigns, so that you know if it's worth your while or not.
What are the top three qualities when you're hiring your marketing team leadership?
I think first and foremost is you hire for culture fit, and you make sure that whoever this leader is someone with whom you share values, and being very clear about what those values are. And that's true not just for marketing, but for anyone. And then separately, I think the ability to operate under pressure, iterate, willingness to experiment. I'm counting those as one, even though that's probably three on its own. And then the last one I think is just the ability to be able to shift quickly and grow with the organization for at least a decent period of time, anticipating that your marketing team needs are very likely to change. And so if you're hiring a leader, you need someone who can manage other people, that can work through multiple stages of a company's growth. You may not be able to find somebody to manage 0 to hero for sure, but from 1 to 10 and 10 to 100, I think is probably reasonable. And another reason why I think that culture fit is number one is so important.
What is the most surprising lesson that you have learned as a founder?
But I think it really is like a business ends at 2 points. One, if you run out of cash, and two, if you quit. So you can control 50% of that by just never quitting. And as painful as that is, it is a real strategy. And I think so many startups today don't think in a long enough time horizon, and they're planning for tomorrow, next week, next year, as opposed to how am I going to continue to do this for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and really taking the long view. but it's been really beneficial for me personally to be able to take the long view and frankly just uh, uh, the willingness to deal with pain has and my capacity to deal with pain has probably been the biggest learning for me.
If you could give advice to the younger Atticus who just started PadSplit, you
Um,
didn't have your first unit, and now you're counting back um, 5, 6, 7 years back, and you tell Atticus you have to know this.
that be patient and that it will take longer than you expect, but that the individual impacts that you see and that you help create will be worthwhile.
Which question did I need to ask you, but I did?
What question did you need to ask me that you didn't? Yeah, it's probably related to the last one. Is just uh, what are the things that continue to drive you or that keep you going, knowing the level of pain that you have to endure. And for me, when you hear a review from or a personal experience from a customer whose life has literally been transformed for the better by your product, that that is what fuels you, right? And that ultimately, when you get featured in the press, when you raise a big round, all of the all of the things that we look in the newspaper or uh, social media that gets celebrated very rarely ever make you feel good or valuable or fulfilled for a long period of time. But I can still go back to the individual stories that I know, for the personal stories where we have created massive impacts, and those absolutely still reflecting on those fuel me to this day. And I think that's why I'm still here on the grind that I am.
Atticus, thank you so much. I had a great time. I really enjoyed this conversation.
My pleasure. Well, thanks for the opportunity.